All right, let's go ahead.
All right. Week 17. Limping to the finish line. I finally got our first 0-5 week. Um,
I wasn't sure. I was like, I
well,
guess
it
I'm
was only
impressed
fun.
that we put it off for this long, but I was like, I know that we've been so close on a few weeks, which is probably not good.
No, I mean, we've had 2 weeks where we were 4-0 going into our last pick of the week and lost both of those. We've had a couple weeks we went, I think, I think one or two 1-4s. I think we had a 1-3-1, or two 1-3-1s. But yeah, last week was there were three games that were just bad, two games that were tough. So the Titans lost outright to the Texans. That was one we talked about quite a bit. I think, you know, weighing, the Texans being a team that were coming off two covers against the Cowboys and the Chiefs, but just didn't really see a way in which the Titans could lose five straight. They've now lost six straight since we're recording on Friday after that loss to the Cowboys. But that was what was it, a hold your nose and take it type of pick. And
Yeah,
I mean, I followed that game throughout. I mean, frankly, they were leading and actually outside the number for quite a bit, and then Derrick Henry had a pretty costly fumble that just seemed to kind of change the entire flow of the game. From there, the Texans just kind of took that momentum and just kind of ran away with it. So, it's a tough loss. Not our best pick. The Broncos and Colts picks were just bad. Broncos just got steamrolled. Even worse that it was on the Nickelodeon game. So it was like I just had to see the memes over and over again on Twitter, which was not great for my mental health. Colts looked awful. Nick Foles looked awful. Probably shouldn't be a starting quarterback. Um, Eagles was a tough loss. We kind of knew what we were buying into with Minshew as the backup. But they were in it all the way to the end. I mean, they were covering basically the entire game. And then the Cowboys took the lead, and then they kicked that late field goal, which was just tough. Eagles had the ball, final drive, had a chance, couldn't convert, but we were in that game. It's just unfortunate to finish, a half point outside the number. That Raiders game on Sunday night was a gut punch. We went back to the well one more time. And I went back and was just looking at the game flow. Second half, this was their order of possessions in the second half after going into the half leading 10-3. Interception, interception, a 6-play drive, then a punt, a 5-play drive, then a punt, a 3-and-out, and then another interception. They lose 13-10.
yeah.
We don't cover. Just brutal, absolutely brutal. 0-5. That's how you do it. So we're 31, 46, and 3 in the super contest, 30, 46, and 4 in the circa.
So just
Pretty
say it one more time,
demoralizing.
just so I can write it down.
31, 46, and 3. And then we are 30, 46, and 4 in the circa. Yeah, not great. I'm gonna go back because I've got all of these saved in a Google Doc.
Mhm.
Um, or like just I do Google Docs every week and I just create a copy and do a new one for each week. And I'm gonna go back and I kind of want to do like an audit of just like how many games. I got to think about how to like approach it and how to like break it up, but like how many games we finished like a half point outside the number. I'd be
Yeah.
curious to see because I feel like there's been a lot of games where we had close covers. Um, and then I mean this would take quite a bit of work. But I'd also just be interested to see like, how many games did we lose like on the final possession of the game? Because I'd be curious, like just to go back, and I should probably do it to see how many we won as well, just to be fair. But yeah, I mean, we talk about this every week. I mean, last week was bad. We had three pretty bad picks in there, but like for the most part, it's felt like we've been on the wrong side of those games that finished a half point or a point outside the number, and we've just been on that wrong side. Close games against the spread, but we just picked the wrong side. I don't know if that's luck, because I can't. I don't know how to. I don't know how to how to categorize that. Is that bad luck? Is that bad handicapping? Because it's right there. So anyway, that's
Yeah, I mean,
that's
I think a lot of it's bad luck, just from the sense of I don't think I don't think we've had too many where we've been on the right side of it. I think that a lot of the times that we've been right, we've been very right. And
Mhm.
then a lot of the times we've been wrong, it's like 50-50 where it's, some of it we just missed the mark on it, or we might have been off by a couple points where maybe it was close enough and then we just weren't on the right side. But it does feel like, anytime there's been like those half point differences that we've been on the wrong side of it instead of being the benefactor of it. So I mean, it could just be one of those where unlucky season. I mean, maybe things turn around next year and then, we get all those, lucky breaks, that type of thing. But yeah, I mean, sometimes we just seem to miss the mark. And, I mean, like you said, I mean, there were those two games that we were just barely, we were literally half a point out, and then others that we just missed. I mean, the Broncos game, I don't know what the hell went on. That seemed bizarre. I mean, now it seems like everybody's, I don't know, did you see all the Broncos? Well, not all the Broncos, the two Broncos receivers, Jerry Judy and KJ Hamler.
we'll talk about that.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, that team just seems. I mean, that was like the breaking point, I think, for that team, and it's like we just happened to catch them on the week that got their coach fired.
Yeah,
The Colts. I mean, the Colts one. It was one of those where it was within reach at halftime, but it was also one of those where you're like, they cannot mess up once if we want any chance at covering
they
this.
can't mess up once, and it's like we were there with them a couple weeks ago with that Cowboys pick.
Yeah,
There's what 21-20, 21-19 going into the fourth quarter, and then they lost by 30 points.
yeah,
I mean, just the margin for error for them is so small, it's basically non-existent. And it's like, we went into the half 10-3, and it's like you're within striking distance. But the problem is like they had basically already done all they could.
yeah,
They had nothing left.
yeah,
And they essentially didn't show up for the second half.
yeah. I think it's also just. Yeah, I mean, we were definitely buying into the whole, what Nick Foles was able to do in Philly, that type of thing, and I didn't expect him to look that bad.
Yeah,
But it was also just one of those where, like, the first snap, it was evident. It's like, all right, the Nick Foles that we were hoping to get, he's clearly not here.
he doesn't exist.
It was
Yeah,
like as soon as you took that snap, you just knew it,
yeah,
and then all of a
yeah.
sudden you're just holding your breath for the whole game, hoping
Oh,
to
and
keep it
you know,
close
we
enough.
we probably should have also acknowledged the fact that a Super Bowl winning quarterback was the third string quarterback on this team
Yeah,
with Sam Erlinger as the backup.
yeah,
Probably that was probably something we just they're obviously seeing something in practice that we don't see.
yeah.
We don't have visibility into it. But there's a reason, and we just overlooked it. All right. A few quick notes before we get into the games. There was really only one big public fade, which is a pretty obvious one. 49ers are 81% public bets against the Raiders this week. Raiders are catching 10 at home. Obviously, the big news coming out of Las Vegas is Derek Carr. Not only was he benched, he was effectively sent home, which is just unbelievable. So they've got Jarrett Stidham at QB. So public obviously is heavily on the 49ers, laying 10 there. And then I got your home dogs for you. I count 4 of them.
Yep.
The Texans plus 4.5 against the Jags. You've got the Seahawks plus 1.5 against the Jets. You got the Raiders plus 10 against the 49ers, which we just said, and then the Bengals plus 1 against the Bills. Underdogs last week, 8-7 against the spread. I was reading underdogs have actually been on a bit of a downward trend the last few weeks, but overall for the season, they're still covering at a 53% clip. Road teams were 7-8 against the spread last week. Just under 500 for the season. Cincy, best team against the spread. They're 12-3. I think it's 7 straight now that they've covered. Worst team obviously has been for a while. Tampa Bay Bucks 3-11-1 against the spread. That's it. You ready to jump into the games?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm trying to pull up. I wanted to pull up Carson Wentz's stats from last week.
That's our second game.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the Bucks and the Panthers first. This is the battle for the NFC South. So Bucks laying 3 at home against the Panthers. As I just said, Bucks are the worst team against the spread this year. 3-11-1 on the season. I think it's now like 11 straight or 11 of their last 12 that they have not covered. It's a remarkable run. Panthers obviously won the matchup earlier this season, which is why we're in the position that we're in. So Bucks are a game ahead in the standings. They're what, 7-8? I think they 7-8. Is that it?
I believe so.
Panthers 6-9. But if the Panthers win this week, they will be in the driver's seat. They will be in first place of the NFC South because of the head-to-head matchup, and then they'll basically control their own destiny. So either a win or a Bucks loss in Week 18 would send them to the postseason. So this is for the division. I mean, this is basically it. As I said, Panthers won early this year. Bucks D playing a lot better. The offense still looks atrocious. Watch that game against the Cardinals last week. It's kind of the same story. Nothing's really changed. Brady basically has less than 2 seconds to get rid of the ball. The run game still isn't that great. O-line looks like shit. I don't really want to touch this game. I mean, I think there's obviously a pretty obvious narrative that like the Bucks could be an auto fade team just because of how little they have covered this season. But this also just feels like a weird spot to me. Knowing it's for the division, like basically the season comes down to this. They're at home. They've got their fate in their own hands. I just have a weird feeling about this game. I kind of don't want to touch it. I kind of want to just look elsewhere and just watch this game on Sunday and see what happens. But do you have a read on this?
Yeah, I like the Bucks side. Not a pick I love or anything, but I just feel like it's one of those where at the end of the day we have to realize it's Tom Brady versus Sam Darnold with the division on the line. I almost don't care about anything that's kind of led up to it. I think it's just, chips on the table. You gotta take the Bucks. I believe the Panthers Bucks game in the first round that they had, that was the one where Mike Evans had like that huge drop where he was like wide open for like
First play of the drive.
yeah, and so I mean, I don't know. I think it's just one of those, Tom Brady during the daytime, he's been better than he has been at night as far as winning and covering the spread, that type of thing. I just feel like this is one of those where maybe they've kind of had this game circled the whole time. I mean, it's been a couple weeks now that it's been building up to this, anyways.
Yeah.
I like the Bucks to just win it because I think it's one of those where, all right, who are you going to take? You're going to take the Panthers to win the division and make the playoffs, or you're going to bet on Tom Brady to lose and miss the playoffs. So, just because of that, it's a Tom Brady pick for me. But I mean, it's definitely not one that I necessarily love just because of how hard it's been to, bet on the Bucks this year. But at the same time, I've seen a lot of people kind of buying into Darnold now and how he's been finishing out. Oh, if they make the playoffs, we should keep him around, that type of thing. I was a Sam Darnold hater before it was cool. I would just like to point out he always plays well at the end of the season. That never means anything. Always, last 4 weeks of the season, he'd play well. He'd get the Jets fans to buy back into him and be like, "Oh yeah, we could bring him back next year. He's not the problem. He's not the problem." And then you start week 1 and he turns out he is the problem. And then it's another cycle of him finishing the season strong and giving people that hope. So I've seen the story a bunch of times from Sam Darnold. Because of that, I like to fade him here as well. But still not an easy pick taking the Bucks this year.
Yeah. We'll mark it as a lean. But I do believe there's probably going to be 5 other games out there that we're going to like more. All right, next game. We got the Commanders laying 2 at home against the Browns. A few notes here that I had. Cleveland 4-0-1 against the spread in their last 5 following a loss. Washington's failed to cover their last 3. Washington 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 versus losing teams. But the big thing here is that Carson Wentz is the starting quarterback, taking over for Heineke. Came in the middle of the game last week, obviously in that blowout loss to San Francisco. Tough spot here for the Commanders to be changing quarterbacks yet again at such a pivotal time in the season. Going back to the guy that you benched earlier this year after he got hurt and Heineke came out and essentially outplayed him. I Browns lost last week to the Saints. Maybe tough to pick them coming off a loss against a team like that, but I do like the dynamic of a struggling playoff team versus an eliminated team with nothing to lose. And I think with the Browns, Watson, they got to keep Watson in there. They got to keep building for next season. This is all about next season for them. Obviously, coming off the 11-game suspension, he hasn't looked great, but this is really about him just continuing to get reps with that first team offense. And I think they've got a lot to gain in these last couple games, including this one. And it's a great spoiler spot for them, to keep the Commanders out. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I like the Browns here. I think it's just one of those where the Commanders are at, it's, they always say if you have two quarterbacks, you don't have one. And a lot of times I think that's kind of bullshit, but I think that does apply here because you're now making that change to a guy who seemed to kind of bring the vibes down when he was the starting quarterback. They were playing like shit when he was the starting quarterback. They were not winning games. And now he's back. And, I looked at, he was like 12 of 16 for like 130 yards or something. I'm watching Jersey Jerry run out for the tee for the kickoff.
Oh, Jesus. Wait, he's running the tee out?
He collects the tee after the kickoff. Yeah.
Oh my God.
But yeah, I think it's just one of those where I think this is kind of where the season ends for Washington. And also maybe it's a little selfish of a pick. Maybe this would actually be a spot where I should be taking their money line because I have them under 8 wins. They're sitting at 7. So I need them to go at least 1-2. I'll take a push. But I need them to go at least 1-2 to end the season. But yeah, I think it's just a lot like the other week when the Browns beat the Ravens, right? And the only holdup that I had, we ended up taking the Ravens, but I was just like, part of me feels like this is just a game that the Browns should just win. Like they're just kind of due for that. I feel like it's a similar spot here. And like you said, it's a good spoiler spot for them. I do feel like this is where the Commanders season kind of comes to an end, where you go back to Carson Wentz, and he's just a vibe killer. I don't think people really like him. And I forget who it was that was saying it. Maybe it was Chris Long or something, but they were kind of talking about it where it's like, no matter what, like you can, like, people respect that he's like tough. And I don't think anybody debates that, right? Like he's clearly played through a bunch of injuries, that type of thing. But basically what they were saying is like people can give him that type of respect, especially as a quarterback. But like he's not a guy that's like in the locker room hanging out, where you see guys like even Tom Brady, who's like such a celebrity now. Like he's still so personable and really gets along with his teammates. Or I forget who it was that was saying it, but like I think it was Carson Palmer was like a great locker room guy, and that's a guy that you could rally around. Wentz is not a guy that you can rally around. So I don't like him coming in and giving them that extra push to make it into the playoffs. So I'll gladly fade them here and take the Browns as dogs.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna mark it as a like. All right. Next game, we get the Ravens and the Steelers. Ravens at home laying 2.5. Noted a couple hours ago, Lamar and Marcus Peters are both ruled out. So they will not be playing. So it'll be Snoop Huntley again under center for the Ravens. You like how I'm just embracing the Snoop Huntley nickname now? Now that I've found out. A week ago, I had no idea that was his nickname, and now that's all I go by. I like Pitt here. I was just kind of going back and looking at, their schedule over the last like 7 games or so. And just seeing, I mean, their schedule hasn't been super tough, but they've won their last 2, 4 of their last 5, 5 of their last 7. The losses were to Cincy. It was 37-30. I remember that one because I think we took Pitt getting 4.5 in that. And then they lost to Baltimore a few weeks ago, 16-14. So obviously, there's some recency here, some familiarity, and it was a close game. But they've won 5 of their last 7, 2 good competitive losses against 2 playoff teams, 2 teams at the top of their division. And that it seems like there's an energy there. Even just watching that game on Sunday night, the comeback against the Raiders, this feels like a good spot too for Tomlin. Again, it's Tomlin in another underdog spot. It's a rivalry game, divisional game. Ravens don't have their starter. They're going out there with a backup. Feels like a good spot for the Steelers defense to just kind of take over and really dictate the game. I like Pitt here.
Yeah, I feel the same way. One thing that it looks like this game has been flexed to prime time, so 8:20.
Yep.
So that kind of makes me like him more. I like Tomlin getting his guys up, divisional rivalry, that type of thing. I don't think his record is necessarily great. I'm looking at it right now. I think he's 5-8 straight up versus the Ravens in prime time. They haven't played a prime time game since 2014 though. But
Mhm.
yeah, I just feel like it's two teams with different momentum. I think the Steelers, they're out of it, but they're building something positive here. Last week was a great win for momentum. And the way the Tomlin coaches, it's just like that's never a team that's going to give up late in the season, no matter what their position
Yeah.
is. And yeah, it just feels like
They're actually not out of it.
oh,
They
okay, they're not officially out?
they're not official. So I was just reading about it. If they win, the Patriots beat the Dolphins, and the Jets lose to Seattle in Seattle. And then next week, they've got to win again. And I think they would need the Pats to lose to the Bills and the Dolphins to lose to whoever they're playing next week.
Would that be
I
the
can't remember who.
Jets?
The Jets.
Yeah.
They would need the Dolphins to lose to the Jets. So I mean, there's a lot that needs to happen. But if they win, if they win their last two games, and then the stuff that they need to happen this week isn't out of the realm of possibility. I mean,
Yeah.
you're asking the Patriots to beat, Teddy Bridgewater and
Yeah.
the Dolphins, which seems quite viable. And then you need the Seahawks to beat the Jets, who I think the Jets are on the road. And they've got Mike White back, but again, I mean, Mike White is their backup.
Yeah.
So totally possible. So they're in it. Low odds, but they're in it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that actually makes me feel better. I was just thinking that they were already out, but yeah, I think that they're just building towards something. And Kenny Pickett, he's starting to get more and more comfortable. I think that touchdown at Pickens was huge. I don't know if
Yeah.
you saw the video after of Pickens on the sideline when they had the game-winning interception. He's like waving to the crowd. He's doing the celebration he
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
I think Pickens is awesome. I love him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like it here, and just Tomlin as an underdog, he's got a great record in prime time. I love how he gets his guys up for those types of games. So I like the Steelers here, especially against Snoop.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Mark them as a like. Next game, we get the Eagles at home, laying 6.5 against the Saints. Hurts practiced again, but they listed him as doubtful.
Yeah.
And I think I just read Schefter tweet that they're pretty sure that there's not been a single person that's been listed as doubtful as for a game that's going on to play that weekend.
Yeah.
So it's probably Minshew. I don't know. I wasn't really interested in this game. I mean, I like the Eagles to win. I think Minshew played well last week. Obviously, we backed him as an underdog against the Cowboys. 6.5, even though they're at home, even though the defense is very good against, kind of a meh Saints team. I don't know. It just feels like too big of a number, and I'm not confident enough in the Saints to take the other side. So this was a game that just felt like a pass for me.
Yeah, yeah. If we're gonna take a side, it's the Eagles. I think there's a little added motivation. The Eagles do have the Saints' first round pick,
Mm.
so there's a little added motivation. I mean, of course, they want to win the game regardless, so I guess it doesn't matter too much. But
Yeah, yeah.
I think that there is a little bit of a rivalry somehow because like they have C.J. Gardner-Johnson on the Eagles now. I think there's a little bit of beef. But yeah, if we're gonna take a side, it's the Eagles. Not one I necessarily love, but I do
Yeah.
think that's the right side. And like you were saying, Minshew played well. Of course, there were a couple turnovers there, but he played good enough to win as a backup, and it was against a much better team. And I just feel like the Saints are. I don't know. I don't know if they necessarily have it, but they're also getting a bunch of guys back. It sounds like Kamara's back, Olave's back, that type of thing too. So I think it's
Yeah.
enough of a reason to just kind of stay away unless we got to come back for a fifth one.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next game, we get the Falcons and the Cardinals. Falcons at home, laying 3.5. Interesting. Looks like so. Colt McCoy out. He will not start. So it looks like it's McSorley again. And then, funny enough, once that was announced, it sounds like Hopkins came up with a knee issue at practice today. So he's now been put on the injury report as questionable. So,
It's actually David Blah is starting for the Cardinals.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
It's not even McSorley?
No.
Oh my God. Oh my God. That's brutal.
Yeah, that actually, I mean, that could be better for the Cardinals, actually. I mean, he actually has starts, right? I mean, I don't know, I'm looking it up right now.
I don't I mean, I don't know. I don't is it though?
Well, I
I
think
mean,
it's
this
better than McSorley.
maybe it's better than McSorley, but we're still talking about like a fourth string QB. Not that the Falcons or anything, but um oh God. Isn't Blas the guy that used to be in Detroit, right?
Yeah.
Like a super religious guy. I think they featured him a little bit
Yeah, he was big on
on
the Hard Knocks.
Hard
I think
Knocks.
his wife,
Yeah,
maybe, is his wife like the track runner or something?
that's right. Yeah, yeah, yep.
Yeah, he threw for 280 yards, 2 touchdowns on Thanksgiving.
Last year.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
and, 2 years ago, 2019.
All right. Um,
But 0-5 as a starter.
not great.
That wasn't a bad Lions team, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
3-12-1 Matt Patricia coached Lions team.
I don't know. Did you have a side on this one?
No, I mean, my knee jerk was the Falcons, but it's also one of those where, we've talked about these bad teams that are favorites. Maybe that's a reason to fade them.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely favors the Falcons. I actually like how they've looked with Desmond Ritter playing quarterback.
Mhm.
Maybe that's a little biased just because I'm a Drake London fan. He's been getting like a million targets a game with Ritter playing quarterback. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like that's maybe one that maybe you should take the underdog in, but I think we could stay away from it if we don't like it.
Yeah, it feels like a stay away. Okay. All right. Next game, Jaguars and Texans. Texans home dogs, one of our home dogs here. They're getting 4.5. A lot of history here, not favorable to the Jaguars. They've lost 7 straight outright as a favorite, including all 3 this season, and 4 of those have come against Houston. Jags are 3-0 against the spread in their last 3. Houston 3-0 in their last 3 as an underdog. They have covered the past 5 games against the spread versus Jacksonville dating back to 2018. 3-0 against the spread versus Jacksonville since the start of last season, regardless of who was favored. A few other things to note on this game. Obviously, this game means nothing to Jacksonville. And, similar to last night's game for the Titans, meant nothing. It all comes down to week 18 against the Titans. And Trevor Lawrence listed as questionable with a toe injury today. Not sure if they're going to end up sitting him and just kind of rest him up for next week. I don't know what the plan is there. Trayvon Walker also showed up in the injury report today. He's questionable. What do you think here?
Yeah, I mean, I think all the signs kind of point to you have to take the Texans, and I think that there could be that's what I was going to say about the injuries, where it could be one where we actually end up getting like insane value on it, just because if Trevor Lawrence is announced as out or anything like that, then all of a sudden we're going to be getting a bunch of points taken away.
Yeah.
So that could be a reason to just kind of maybe potentially buy low on the Texans. One thing that sticks out to me, I just pulled up the Action Network. They have like that whole stat blog that they post.
Yeah.
First thing they write for the Jaguars: Lawrence hasn't thrown an interception on the road in his last 5 road games. He's gonna throw.
Oh, of course.
It's just gonna
Absolutely.
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe that's one of those. Maybe it's a pick where it's maybe a little too cute, and it's similar to the what's it called, the
Mine's
game
already
last week that we were saying about how the Colts game where it's like all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, they have to play like absolutely perfect to pull it off. So maybe it is too cute of a pick, but I mean everything kind of points to the Texans, and
line.
um,
Line's already moved. It's Texans are only getting 3 now.
yeah, I
Um,
mean, so maybe that's a reason to take. I mean, it could be just worth the risk, especially with where we're at now.
I know.
It's not like there's anything in the line here. It could just be worth taking that risk, and then all of a sudden, kickoff happens, and they're 1 point underdogs, or it's a pick 'em or something.
Yeah. Yep.
But the
Uh,
Texans, the playing team's tough. I mean, 3 straight covers, and then they won last week, and then they played 2 really
yeah.
good teams tough. So,
That's the
um,
other thing. I mean, that's also more evidence where I'm like, I don't think it's that cute of a pick.
yeah,
We talked about it. We talked about them last week. I mean, there was cause for potentially taking them, and I think ultimately we just felt like it was too much of a must-win spot for the Titans. But we talked about it last week with how tough they had played the Cowboys. They had taken the Chiefs to overtime. They've been playing competitive football. I don't see any reason that's going to stop, especially against a team that they've been very successful against the last few years. So I like the pick. I think we go with it.
Yeah, I like it.
All right, next game, Lions at home, laying 6 against the Bears. Detroit 4-0 ATS at home in their last 4, 7-1 in their last 8. Chicago's 0-3 ATS their last 3 road games. This is the most points Detroit is laying as a favorite since week 8 of 2019. These two teams obviously played earlier this year as divisional foes. 31-30 Detroit. Worth noting, Justin Fields ran for 147 yards, 2 touchdowns. Obviously, you'll need him to do that again in your fantasy championship matchup.
Would be great.
Just a note there for your success. Both teams coming off bad losses. Lions looked awful against the Panthers. We actually kind of flagged that game. Opted not to take it. Should have. That's how our season's been going.
Yeah.
And then the Bears got blown out by the Bills. Actually went into the half leading, and then just didn't come out for the second half. What do you think here?
I like the Bears a lot here. One thing that sticks out to me is what you just said. It's the Lions' biggest spread as a favorite since 2018. Typically, you should be fading teams in those spots, I feel like. I mean, it's hard to not watch that game last week where they let the Panthers run all over them, and that's not really a high power rushing attack that they have in Carolina. I mean, I know that Deontay Foreman, he's been great this year. He's had a resurgence after kind of starting his career with a torn Achilles. It's nice to see him come back. But I mean, that is not like a top rushing attack in the league. Justin Fields should be able to run all over this team unless they've made drastic changes from last week. But like you said, I mean, when they last played, he ran for 100 yards, whatever.
40.
So yeah, so I like the Bears a lot here, +6. I think that it could be a good upset spot, to just win outright. The money line could be worth a look, but I really like the Bears here, almost getting a full touchdown.
Yep. I like the Bears as well. I think a good point too, just about how much the Panthers ran all over them. Actually, I was reading about that last night. Somebody was just talking about how great of a trade moving McCaffrey was. I mean, really for both teams.
Yeah.
But you look at the run production that the Panthers have had since McCaffrey left, and it's not obviously not a knock on McCaffrey, he's incredible, but I mean, they've had incredible run production since he left. And so they've lost nothing there. And then you think about what they got in return for moving him. So,
Yeah.
Brilliant trade. And then obviously he's been phenomenal for the 49ers. So, that seems like it's going to be one of those trades that's, possibly a win-win for both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and the Bears have a great rushing. I mean, it's not just Fields. I mean, they've got Herbert back, so you've got that two-headed monster of Montgomery and Herbert. I mean, they could run for 200, 250 yards next week or this week. Wouldn't surprise me. It's probably worth considering for DFS.
Yeah. For what it's worth, we're starting to really follow this trend. I have that Action Network blog up about eliminated teams playing teams that need a win over the final 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And that hits at a 63% clip. I mean, it's the Commanders, the Ravens, the Bucks, Dolphins, Giants, Lions, Jags, and Chargers are the teams to fade if you want to follow that. So we've already hit a few of those teams. So.
Yeah, I'm seeing it. All right. Next game. This is probably a trap for us. It's the Patriots and the Dolphins. Patriots at home, laying 2.5. Biggest news, obviously, Tua not being cleared. Teddy Bridgewater is going to start. Teddy's been a cover machine for his career. Although we should note he did not cover in his only start this year when he filled in for Tua. That was against Minnesota. I think
since 2020, 15-15 against the spread.
Oh, wow. So recent. All right. Interesting.
Yeah. So before that, let me do the math. So before that, he was 28-7.
Wow.
And now he's 15 cents. So water is finding its level in that sense.
It is. I was just going to say that. I mean, look, I think it's very easy to just put the math together and say, no Tua, you got the Pats at home. The D has played well down the stretch. Obviously, there's a lot of concerns about the offense. The Dolphins are a big blitzing team, which gives problems to Mac Jones. That was kind of the case when they played earlier this year. I do think that final score, we talked about it, that final score also felt a little misleading in terms of just, I think there were a couple big plays in the game that maybe skewed actually how competitive the game was throughout. But, I lean Patriots here, but it might just be one. Maybe we're better off staying away from it. But I'm curious what you think.
I like the Pats as well. I kind of have the same reservations as you, but at the same time, it's like, sometimes things do go our way. And then, I mean, I'm looking at it. Pats in the 1 p.m. window, they're 25, 15, and 1 against the spread since 2018. They got a losing record in the other windows. So they definitely play better in the earlier games. I think that also has to do with the fact that since 2018, in those primetime spots, they're playing better teams, right? They're not playing, the fucking Texans or whatever at
Yeah.
8:30, So I think that a little bit of that has to do with it. It kind of skews it, but at the same time, it's like, they definitely play better during the day. I'd feel worse about it if Tua was playing. One, because obviously the team's better, but Tua also hasn't lost to the
Right.
Patriots.
That
He
would be
does have their
different. I mean, I think the Dolphins would probably be 2.5 point favorites, right?
Yeah, I think that probably would flip the spread. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, looking at it, and yeah, it does feel like Teddy Bridgewater still has that reputation. That could be a good opportunity to fade him while he's maybe still getting a little bit of love. Not that I think Vegas has fallen for that. I think they
Yeah.
probably know before anybody that Bridgewater's not covering the spread like that.
Sure.
But I like the Pats here. I think, if we want to take it, I think we should just put it on. I don't think we should pass just because or anything like that. I like it. I mean, they have to win this if they want any shot of making it into the playoffs. And
They do.
um,
What,
I think that
what, what do they need to happen? Is it they just they went out there in? Is that
I think if they win out, they're definitely in. I'm not sure what the scenarios are if they go 1-1.
yeah? Because it's more
Obviously a week
more like
18 matchup against the Bills is not ideal, but
yeah. Although, well, yeah, because I mean the reality is, I mean the Bills are still going to have a shot for the number one seed next week, no matter what.
yeah,
Uh,
if they win this week, are the Bills able to?
no, because well, let's see if they win this week. If they win this week and the Chiefs lose, um,
No.
which probably not going to happen. We're going to talk about that game next. Um, then they would clinch
Yeah.
because they have the tiebreaker over the Chiefs. But it if the Bills win this week, Chiefs win this week, then they go into next week and it's both teams need to win.
Mhm.
Um, now, if the Bills lose this week, they can still win. They can still get a home field advantage if they win next week and the Chiefs lose against the Raiders. But again, that's another scenario that
Yeah.
doesn't seem plausible.
So I'm looking now. If the Pats win, they're in that third spot.
yeah, they're in. They are the 7th seed if they win
Yeah,
this
because
week.
they'd flip with the Dolphins, so they would be that 7th seed, and then they obviously have the advantage over the Jets, Steelers, Titans, all that shit. So that's good. So I mean, they at least have to win this one. It's a very winnable game.
Yeah.
You gotta trust Belichick to get the guys right and have them come out. And they've been playing fine football. I mean, I think that there's a lot of things that they need to improve in the offseason, but they've been able to put some games together. And I mean, we don't got to talk about the Raiders game, whatever happened there. They played the Bengals very
Whatever
tough. I thought
happened there? Whatever happened there?
but I mean, I was very impressed with how much fight that they showed in that second half against the Bengals too. So I mean, this is a team that they're playing better football than their record suggests. I mean, they're not pulling out the wins that you'd like to see them pull out, but it's like they're very close to having a much better record than what they have right now. So I
Kinda,
still
they're
think it's a
kind
very
of
decent team, and I don't see Bridgewater getting it done.
they're kind of like us, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
Kind of
yeah.
whatever the
Seriously.
record shows. All right, I'll mark them as a like. All right, next game: Chiefs and Broncos. Chiefs at home, laying 12.5. We talked about this earlier. Broncos coming off an embarrassing blowout loss to the Rams. They fired Nathaniel Hackett. I'm not sure Hackett was fully the problem. You know, but seemed like maybe they just had to make that move. And this is probably the first of many moves that are going to happen. I don't know what other pieces will fall. We talked about this earlier too. Seems like Broncos PR did some serious work over the last couple of days. Now they've got some teammates coming out of the woodwork defending Russ. Very odd. I'm just going to put that out there. I'm not saying that this was orchestrated. I'm not saying that guys have been paid on the side to go and publish tweets defending the quarterback who signed a $250 million contract coming into the season and has completely underperformed.
The
I'm not
Broncos
saying,
retweeting it was the weirdest part to me. That's what I thought was just so
I'm
bizarre.
not I'm not saying any of that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, did I send you my breakdown of Jerry Judy's tweet?
No.
Well, he's like, I'm tired of all these false accusations. He quote tweeted Barstool's blog
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
that was saying, uh, Russell Wilson allegedly has his own office, blah, blah, blah. Notice he said allegedly. And then Jerry Judy goes, I'm tired of all these false accusations, yada, yada, yada. He has an office because he's earned it. So what's
Well,
the
it's not
false
a false,
accusation? You just confirmed it.
a false, like, yeah. Like, you just confirmed it. Thank you.
Yeah, like they were only saying it was a legend. You just made it, you just confirmed it. Now we all know that he does, in fact, have his own office,
Yeah.
which is just bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Shannon Sharp, he was saying that I guess Russell Wilson has multiple parking spots
For what?
just at the facility. He's just got multiple parking spots.
Like,
And people are like, oh, well, on Pat McAfee's show, Pat said that that's not true. It's like, all right, am I going to trust Pat McAfee or am I going to trust Shannon Sharp, the Broncos legend?
Mm-hmm.
Like, who the hell am I going to, whose word am I going to take there? I like Pat, but come on.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
A lot of weird stuff coming out of Denver.
Yeah, this is a weird one. But honestly, I do feel like if we're going to take it, I don't really want to take it at all, but I do feel like this is maybe a spot to take the Broncos, a little bit of the interim bump.
Yeah.
It feels like there is just weirdly, whatever you think the motivation is behind the tweets, there might be some extra motivation to just get up and, really like, hey, like, let's go show out for Russ this week. Like, let's really put everything on the line, keep it close. And I mean, were they not playing the Chiefs pretty close the last time they played? Was that when Russell Wilson got, the concussion?
34-28.
Yeah, I mean, they were playing a good game against them. So, I think it's interesting. It's just such a big spread. We know how the Chiefs are when it comes to covering the spread, anyways. So yeah, I mean, I lean the Broncos, but it's a very shaky pick.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you just a few stats I pulled. Let's see. Russ has never been a double-digit dog in a game he started. He's 6-0 against the spread in games in which he's been getting 7.5 points or more. Denver is 4-0 ATS versus winning teams this year. Kansas City 3-0 ATS, their last three as a home favorite. They're 5-10 ATS in their last 15 as 7+ point favorites. That includes 2-4 this season. Kansas City is also 0-4 against the spread versus the division this year. So, I mean, the stats directionally do favor the Broncos.
And the defense is still good. I mean, I know that the defense allowed 1 million points last week, but that was not because they were letting Baker Mayfield drive down the field on them. It's because they were starting every drive at like their own 30-yard.
Yeah, correct. So, I don't know. I don't think I want to take it, but if this was, if we were in a pool in which you have to pick every game, I'd probably take that. So,
yeah.
Okay. All right, next game. Got the Giants home, laying 6 against the Colts. Giants 5-0 against the spread off a loss. 4-0 against the spread versus the AFC this year. Just to go back for a second on our boy Nick Foles, teams are 23-32-1 against the spread in games started by Nick Foles. Wish I'd known that last week. My subjective analysis, they officially look dead, the Colts. They can't move the ball, they're turnover machines. The Giants do fall into this category of, they need to win. I think less so than the Commanders. I mean, obviously, I think the Giants are like a half game ahead of them. But this is a game they got to win, I think, to clinch. And they're playing against a team who's been eliminated, has nothing to play for at all. But I think I would lean the Giants here as home, but I don't love it, but I would lean.
I like the Giants a lot here. I've liked the Giants all of the second half. We were kind of, or at least myself, I was kind of like waiting for the things to collapse, all through the first half of the season. They did have a little bit of a come back to earth moment, but I've really liked how they played. I'm starting to become a fan of what they're building like there. I think Daboll is a great coach. I'm starting to think that Daniel Jones might actually be a pretty good quarterback. Especially given the weapons that he has, that he's playing with. I mean, Isaiah Hodgins was cut mid-season by the Bills. and now he's looking like a Pro Bowler, for the Giants. And Saquon, he hasn't been, the otherworldly player that he was in the first half, but he still gives them such an advantage, in the run game, everything like that, especially the Colts having Jonathan Taylor out. I Yeah, it's so hard to not see the Colts getting blown out here. I think that they are just dead. Of course, sometimes you don't like to overreact one week to the other, but I think at this point in the season, there are some teams where you can say, you know what, that team is just dead. They're
Yep.
kind of focused on next year. They got to find a head coach. They got to address all this other shit. They definitely got to get a quarterback. All types of things. So I do like the Giants here. I think that there's just so much more motivation. I thought that the Colts, I thought that was like a prideful team, a prideful defense. I thought that they'd, put in more of an effort against the Chargers last week, and they were doing a decent job in the first half, and then things started to open up a little bit. But yeah, I think that is just the Colts dead in the water. Fade them. Take the Giants here.
Okay. All right. I like it. Mark it as a like. Next game, we get the Jets traveling to Seattle. Seattle actually catching 1.5 home dogs. Seattle they enter having failed to cover the spread in 6 straight. 0-4 against the spread in the last 4 games following a loss. Obviously, if you've lost 6 straight. They're 19-8 against the spread as a home dog under Pete Carroll. New York 0-4 against the spread their last 4 games when the line is within a field goal. I think we mentioned this earlier, but looks like Mike White expected to return. So he'll start for New York this week. 3 starts this season. Jets are 2-1 against the spread with him under center. What do you like here? Or do you have a like?
I lean the Seahawks here. This just kind of feels like that game where, oh, we got to get Mike White back. Oh, once he's back, everything's going to be back to normal. And then he comes out and he stinks it up because it's Mike White.
Yep.
We did this last year with him. Oh, yeah, that huge game. He beat Cincinnati, everything, and then he ends up fucking sucking.
Yep.
So this just feels like that same type of game. It's not, too deep of an analysis for me, but I do feel like this is like the turn into a pumpkin moment for Mike White that we saw last year. And obviously Geno and the Seahawks, they've kind of fallen off from that hot start that they had to start the season, but I do think that they can pull out the win here.
Yeah, I agree. I lean there too. And we said this earlier. Who were we talking about? Another team that's like dealing with the 2 quarterback thing. Commanders. But in this case, it's, the Jets, if you have 3 quarterbacks, you have none. Just the number of times that they've shuffled quarterbacks and, even still like with Mike White, we talked about this earlier, he had that pumpkin moment against the Bills last year. And, it's like, you get excited about him coming back. It's basically what you were just saying, but it's like, you get excited about him coming back. And then you just kind of realize like, all he is Mike White. It's not like we're waiting for some Pro Bowler to come back.
Like they're still a quarterback away. Even if Mike White can give them some boost this year and sneak them into the playoffs, he's still not the guy. Like you're an absolute fool if you bring him back to be your starting quarterback next year. I think they're definitely going to be active in the quarterback market when it comes to that, whether it's going out getting Garoppolo or maybe. Well, I feel like Derek Carr already has a house in Indianapolis now. It's like, I just have a hard time. Sometimes it's just like you have to say, I've watched the NFL for X amount of years. So many things in sports can be so cyclical, and this just feels like one of them. It's like how many times we say, "Oh yeah, once we get this guy back, oh yeah, this guy's been our savior." And even the thing, Nick Foles, he goes and he wins the quarterback job in Philadelphia, and then he ends up just not being that great, that type of thing. It's like, some guys just they provide that spark right away. Mike White, he's been rushing back. Maybe he's fully healed. Maybe it's also one of those where he's just healed enough to be able to play. Who knows, like exactly if he's going to be 100% or not, that type of thing. And quite frankly, I just think that the Jets stink. So
yeah,
I like Pete Carroll here. I do think Saleh's a good coach, but I think that in a matchup like this, I think this is a good one for Pete Carroll, especially at home.
Yeah, it just feels like the Jets. They're
in a revenge game. Geno Smith against the Jets.
Oh, that's a good call. Yeah, good call. Well, it's and look, the Jets have lost 4 straight. You said they're a quarterback away, but they're also like rotating running backs.
Zonovan Knight, he's done absolutely. He had negative yards last week after 2 really good games, and then the week before that, he kind of had to step back, but to come
Yep.
back from your first down game and then put up negative rushing yards, that's no good.
Yeah. This just feels like I mean, this week one of these teams is essentially going to have their playoff hopes dashed. And I feel like, both teams are limping to the finish line, but I see more juice, more firepower left in the Seahawks than I do the Jets.
Yeah.
So that's the side I like, especially in a home game. All right. Next game, we get the Raiders hosting the 49ers. Raiders are catching 10. Jarrett Stidham at QB. Mentioned this earlier, public 81%, according to the Action Network, are on the 49ers. What do you think here?
I kind of think you just got to take the Niners. If the Raiders want to show up with Stidham, if Stidham wants to come in and provide some type of spark, then go right ahead. But some wild ass play just fucking happened in the.
Oh, really?
Oh, it was
Really?
like just awful camera work. Like the cameraman just completely bit on the play action. And they zoom up to the top of the field and the ball's on the ground.
Wait, it's not Barstool it's not their camera people, is it?
I don't know, because it's on barstool.tv. So like they're streaming it. So I feel like maybe it's, I'm sure that it's like some union that they hired, but
Yeah.
it
But
is
I mean,
being
you can
run
only
through
imagine
them.
who they're hiring,
What's that?
You can only imagine who they're hiring.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I just feel like, Stidham, he had an opportunity to become the starting quarterback 2 years ago. Before, when Cam Newton came in, they ended up bringing Cam Newton in, and he was never able to get that job. And Stidham, I don't think he's very good. I think that this is his job as a backup. Obviously, McDaniels went out to get him, to bring him with him to Vegas, that type of thing. But Stidham has always seemed like the guy where it's like as soon as they draft some receivers, Stidham goes and he works out with them and he shows them the playbook. I thought that Stidham had a chance to kind of be like our next Brian Hoyer in New England, where he's just essentially a coach in the quarterback room, that type of thing. And I feel like it's the same type of thing here. I don't think that Stidham's going to be able to give him points. I do worry about some of these guys. I mean, I'm strongly considering starting both my Raiders in that fantasy championship, and I know that you don't like to get cute with that type of thing, but I've seen too many good offenses get completely smothered by the Niners, and I don't think that the presence of Stidham is going to help. I also don't know what type of motivation there is. I mean, Josh Jacobs was clearly done with the Raiders after last week. Devontae Adams, I just have a hard time seeing him get up and really go for it. With Derek Carr now being sent home. This feels like a team that's maybe coasting into the offseason. I think the Niners have a lot more to play for here. I think that the Raiders are another team that's dead in the water, a lot like the Colts. And because of that, I think that it just should be a blowout. And Shanahan's not the type of coach to kind of take it easy, that type of thing. Shanahan, he goes out, he plays his game, and he should kill this team.
I think the lineup you have is the right one. You got Robinson at running back over Jacobs. Antonio Gibson's out, so he's going to get the lion's share.
Yeah.
I like Drake London in the flex instead of Devontae because again, like
he's just getting all those targets with Ritter there, so why not?
Yeah. And I just what is Stidham really going to give Devontae Adams? And it could be one of those things. They could be out of this game by halftime. Will they even play him?
And it could be something too, where it's like Stidham might just be looking at guys like Mac Hollins or any of these other guys that are kind of like that second team, where it's like these were the guys that he was working with. So, I think a lot of times just think, oh, he's in there, he should just be throwing to Devontae a million times a game. But at the same time, the Niners are more than capable of scheming for and stopping Devontae Adams too. Yeah. So, I'm sure they're going to be looking to kind of stuff the run, make Stidham throw it, and then try and take away Adams and make him, beat him with Renfro and Mac Hollins and all that type of stuff. So it's just, I'm not, I since I have the players, like, I think that's the best thing about my team this year was that I actually have really good depth.
Yeah.
So it's like, if I was starting some random waiver wire guy, like if it was like Isaiah Hodgins, I'd be like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to do that over Devontae, but with it being, Drake London and then Diggs and Godwin in the wide receiver spots, I don't think that it's, that out of line to do. So
Godwin could get a million targets.
Yeah.
So, all right. 49ers it is. All right. Next game, get the Packers at home, laying 3.5 against the Vikings. The 7-8 Packers laying 3.5 against the 12-3 Minnesota Vikings. This is one of those numbers. I feel like we have one of these every week or every couple weeks where there's a number that just kind of jumps off the page that just seems wrong. But makes you wonder what's going on there, makes you wonder if that's the side to take. Green Bay obviously 3-0 against the spread their last three. Minnesota's 0-3. Minnesota 1-4 in their past five against the spread. As a road dog. Packers are making that run we anticipated. You know, we've kind of been seeing this thing, avalanche over the last couple of weeks. They got the win against the Dolphins last week, so they're still alive. They're in it. Couple injury notes. Aaron Jones limited today. Christian Watson, I think, was the same. He's dealing with a hip issue. But this was just...
I had Watson over like 51.5 yards. He gets that hip injury at 49.
Brutal. Did you ask FanDuel for a refund?
I should have.
I don't know. This is just one of those things. Like I will say this. I'm probably more of a Vikings advocate than a lot of people are. I think a lot of people feel like they're a fraudulent team just because of how close all of their wins have been. I think it's 11 one-score games. I think they're going to be a better playoff competitor than a lot of people are maybe giving them credit for, but this was a line that just jumped off the page, and I'm like, do we need to take the Packers here?
Yeah, you got to take the Packers in the spot. We saw the exact same thing a couple weeks ago. Vikings Lions. The Lions did win that game outright. You just got to do the same thing, and I think that not only statistically do you have to take that side, but I think we've also seen it from the Packers now. They are turning it on. They do seem to be figuring it out. Yeah, I mean, it's just you got to kind of throw out everything that you know though, and just say you got to take the favorite here. It's just such a almost preposterous line. So
yep. All right. Next game, got the Chargers at home laying 6.5 against the Rams. I didn't really have. I mean, I don't have anything on this game. This was just kind of like I don't know how to read a game for me. Did you have any notes on it?
No, not really. I kind of like the Rams, but that's more of just like a why not type of pick. The Chargers, they can be a little hard to read at times. It does feel like they're starting to put things together. Sometimes that makes me want to fade them though. And I mean the Rams, they've been figuring some stuff out with that offense. I mean, Cam Akers seems to be figuring it out and kind of getting his burst back. And I didn't realize this. They fired their running backs coach a few weeks ago, and since then, Cam Akers has been playing pretty well. Yeah, so I don't know, how much that actually has to do with it, or if it's just a coincidence, that type of thing. But and it's worth noting. So if I had a gun to my head, if I had to pick a side, I think I'd take the points. But the Chargers could definitely burn us. They've been putting it together, especially with Keenan Allen back. Did you see that Traylon Burks catch last night?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, Keenan Allen could never.
Kevin. I can't believe he lost that matchup.
I said it to Ryan Simcoe as well because he needed that so bad too. And did I tell you what happened in our league? There was a little bit of a controversy I was the center of, where it's a dynasty league, so it's year round, right? Because you take your whole team with you to the next year. We only draft rookies. It's not just keeper; it's a full dynasty. And my quarterbacks are Tua, who could retire after this year. Mac Jones, who has not fully taken the reins as he's not locked in as our guy in New England anyways, and he's also has not been like a great fantasy player. Then I got Davis Mills, who could get replaced next season, or he might have one more year to prove it before he gets replaced in 24. So I'm not stable at quarterback, and it's a 2-quarterback league. So I had the second most fab in the league. Simcoe, though, he rode the backs of Lamar and
Minshew. Was that the thing?
Yeah, I picked the Minshew. Yeah, and everyone's coming at me. Oh, we shouldn't allow non-playoff teams to be making pickups. Why not?
Keep it.
Yeah, why not? It's like, Minshew could be a starting quarterback next year. 55 fab will be a bargain. So, I'm done hearing any of that, any complaints. People want to come up with all these rules that, we shouldn't do that, because people are so reactionary. These people have never been the commissioner of a league. They want to react. One team won 10 games, missed the playoffs because he was 7th in points for, right? Because we do 6 playoff teams, top 3 seeds are the 3 division winners. And then the next 3, the 3 wild card teams are the 3 non-division winners most points for.
Yeah.
So our buddy Matt, he did not win the division. He played in the by far the strongest division. They had 3 really good teams. So he didn't win it. So he's, in the wild card. But he had the 7th most points for. So now people are, should we add 1 playoff spot for the team with the best record that didn't win the division? Why the hell would we do that? That's just tough luck. Tough luck. 1 year, he wins 10 games. He won the 7th or 8th most, but he had the 7th or 8th most points. Why the hell would we put him in?
Yeah.
And that's like, because literally fantasy sports is a points for game.
Yeah.
Of course, you want to make wins matter, that type of thing, but it's like the best team is the team that puts up the most wins. They might have bad scheduling luck, but if anything, he had good scheduling. Like, why the hell would we change the whole format of our playoffs? Because 1 year, this has not been a problem in the other years of the league, but because 1 year the guy misses it, what the hell are we talking about?
Yeah.
And you know what I'm getting to now is people, they want to have year-round trading, no trade deadline. I was like, at some point a team has to lock in and commit, right? And this kid, Slippery Pete, who I'm always battling with, I'm always at odds with, has no understanding of basic economics, right? He's like, well, I think that year-round trading would drive up the market. What the hell kind of class did you take? There's a reason that the McRib and the Shamrock Shake is not a year-round product.
Yeah.
Because when it's limited time, people say, holy shit, I need to go out and get this.
Okay.
So when there's a trade deadline, people say, oh shit, I got to make moves now, because if I don't, I can't do anything until February.
Yeah.
So it's like, and then well, maybe we should just have non-playoff teams can trade.
You don't know what may happen between now and February. So it's like.
Yeah, and then they're suggesting, oh, maybe we should do it so non-playoff teams can keep trading. That's just not an even playing field. So if all of a sudden I want this player, I lose out on getting him because I made the playoffs, like that doesn't make sense. That's like an awful punishment. So yeah, it's all these people that have never been the commissioner of a league. They want to try and bend the rules, and it's all and also when you break it down, you say, oh wait, you want to do this for you.
Yes.
The team that won 0 games this year, went 0-14, wants to have non-playoff teams available. And then you know what's also this, right? This week, all these non-playoff teams picked up guys like Greg Dortch.
Mm-hmm.
Because a playoff team didn't need him. There's no problem. So I have to bend the knee to somebody because they need him. They need him more. I need him too.
Yeah.
What the hell are we talking about?
Yeah. Oh, God. Soft.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Well, last year too, they're up my ass. Oh, because I said, it's good to just take a break from things, right? Not everybody is a year-round dynasty player as well. Like, for me, it's 365, 12 months a year, that type of thing. Like, whether it's making trades or just doing research on rookies, that type of thing. Like, I watch almost every football game. I especially with college, I watch a lot of college, all that stuff. Like, it is year round for me, but some people, like, they just play during the season. And of course, our season's extended with the rookie draft, that type of thing anyways. But it's like, God forbid we just take January off, and then I say we open the trades back up 2 weeks after the Super Bowl, because that's when, the combine starts up, and then, March, April, we have the rookie draft, that type of thing. So it's like, we have like a whole month to kind of gear up for that. It's like, can we just be adults now? Like, we're all 25, 26, 27. Can we be adults and show some goddamn restraint?
Yeah.
And just go 1 month, a month and a half of just no dynasty football, because you can still, this is what I tell people too, you can still talk trade with people.
Yeah.
Like, hey, when the window opens up, like, what are we thinking for this? You looking to move this guy? What do you think of that? Because nothing's going to happen. There's no free agency, no trades.
Guys for tampering, it's like.
Yeah, that's literally what I said to them yesterday. I was like, there's a reason why when the free agency period opens, 20 guys sign a contract at midnight. You think that they just called up and they just happen to have the exact terms? Like, oh shit, that's exactly what I was looking for. It's like, that's how it happens. Like, these guys are talking. You guys can still talk things out, and that's what I say to people too with our rookie draft, because we have a long clock for our rookie draft. We've been doing 24-hour clock, just because people have jobs, that type of thing. But it's really like you're an asshole if you use the full 24 hours. It's for like extenuating circumstances, like shit, something came up, like that type of thing. But it's like I tell people, like, do some prep work before. Like, say, hey, if this guy's not there at 5, I'll be looking to trade back, this type of thing. Like, okay, so like, let's have it. So then all of a sudden, if this scenario plays out, let's hit the switch. And then all of a sudden we make our trade. And then we got guys that are taking like the full 24 hours. Cause it's like, well, it's my right, like I have every right to use my full 24 hours to do what's best for my team. It's like, Yeah, but you've had 2 months to do just a smidge of prep work, it's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
so
yeah.
what did I do? I campaigned and I got the vote to go my way. So we're doing a live first round. You get 10 minutes on the clock. We're all going to be on Zoom. We're going to be doing that type of thing. So it requires people, if you want to make a trade in the first round, if you want to trade up, trade back, trade into the first round, you got to do
Yep.
a little bit of work beforehand. I don't think I'm asking for too much.
I like it. I like it. All right. We got one game left. Bills and Bengals. In Cincy. Bengals are home dog, getting one. Um, I I kind of want to stay away from this game. I feel like I can make a case for either team. I actually think this is a really interesting game in the MVP race. I could see the winner of this game actually, I think whoever loses this game is out of the MVP race. But I think whoever wins this game has a really, really strong case to win the MVP over Mahomes because both of them have a win over Mahomes head to head. Both teams also still very much alive in the race for the number one seed. Bengals need a little more to happen, a little more help to happen. Bills obviously are in the driver's seat, but I think it's a compelling game in terms of the MVP race. But I think these two teams are very closely matched. I think there's a lot of games on the board that we like. I really don't like either side. I think it's just going to be a great football game, and if we pick a side, I'll probably have a heart attack watching this game.
Yeah, I'm fine with passing on. I do think the Bills are going to win it. It does seem like the Bengals, they do seem to struggle a little bit against better defenses. And I think that the Bills are able to also just pair a better offense than what they've seen as well. So I like it for that reason. I'm reading right now, we've only seen 8 primetime matchups with a team of 80 plus 1 percentage versus 73 plus, at this point, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Just brief, just skimming through it, it looks like of those first 8, the favorite has covered 75% of the time, 6 out of 8. I believe the Bills are still the favorite because there's also a thing about closing as the underdog, that type of thing. They've actually lost. So I guess if it flips to the Bills, that could be a bad sign. But I do like the Bills here. I just think that they're the better team. I think that who they just lose, Lael Collins, the Bengals on the offensive line. I think it'd be a huge loss. It sounds like they've been calling up Andrew Whitworth to maybe come back and play, fucking whole line for them. So I think they're a little bit desperate there, but yeah, just it's a lean here. I do like the Bills, but
I got to tell you, it's odd to me that Josh Allen's 12-1 to win the MVP right now.
yeah, I took him before the season at like 5-1. So,
But can you explain explain this to me though? I know the media is in love with Mahomes,
yeah,
and he's great. He's fantastic. There's no debating. But if you look at the numbers that Josh Allen has actually put up this year, both passing and running, I think he's actually, I forget what the exact numbers were, but he's done something this year in terms of passing yards, touchdowns, and rushing yards that no quarterback in the history of the league's ever done.
yeah.
His team is in the driver's seat for the number one seed in the AFC. He beat Mahomes straight up, head to head, and he's 12-1. If he goes out and beats Burrow and then goes out and beats the Patriots next week, I mean, I hope to God he doesn't, but let's say he does, as he's expected to do, and he's the number one seed. I just don't understand how you deny that guy the MVP. I just don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could be one where if they do win this week, that could just like all of a sudden he could be back to like a 3, 4, 5-1 favorite.
Yeah.
I think part of it is just probably because like he's just had and statistically it doesn't really look like he's playing worse this year.
Yeah.
But I think that there just have been those games, right? Like the Jets game when they lost. And then I'm trying to remember. I don't know if it was Miami or what, but he's just had like some really bad interceptions. And there have been games where he's kind of taken them out of it, like himself.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's probably what's playing into it if I had to guess.
Yeah.
Like they had like that 3-week stretch. I'm looking at his game log right now where he had 2 interceptions for 3 straight games. Green Bay, they won by 10, lost to the Jets, and then lost by 3 to Minnesota. So I feel like that's probably why. I feel like it's just like those little moments in those games like that. But I mean, I do think
Number
that if
one
they
seed.
if they win out this week, I think that, or they win out these last 2 weeks, I think that those odds could totally flip.
And they're still the one seed. You
Yeah.
know, I don't know. It's very strange to me. Anyway, all right, we've gone through all the games. Here's where we've netted out. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games that we liked. So we had the Browns +2 on the road against the Commanders. We had the Steelers +2.5 on the road against the Ravens. We had the Texans as home dogs getting 4.5 against the Jaguars. Bears getting 6 against the Lions on the road. Pats laying 2.5 at home against the Dolphins. Giants laying 6 against the Colts at home. Seahawks at home getting 1.5 against the Jets. Niners laying 10 on the road in Vegas, and the Packers laying 3.5 at home against the Vikings. I mean, I feel like just in terms of how we talked about some games, like Texans +4.5 against the Jags felt like, especially knowing that that's already at 3. And if the Jags decide to maybe sit some guys, the value we could get there, that feels like a lock. Do you have any objections to that?
No,
Patriots, I mean, do we just feel like that's one
let's just lock them in.
lock them in?
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of avoided them so much this season. Let's
Yeah.
just do it.
49ers was one where it was like, just feels like you got to take them.
Yeah.
Packers was another one. Feels like just given the line.
Yeah.
Just,
You just got to play that.
so that would give us 4. And then Seahawks, Giants, Bears, Browns, Steelers were the others.
I like the Steelers. I do like that Browns pick. Or not the Browns, the Bears pick. I like the Browns as well, but I like that Bears pick.
Let's see.
Oh shit! And the that pool that I do with my friends.
Yeah.
I guess the opening spread for the Niners Raiders came out before the Derek Carr news.
Yeah.
It's only 5.5.
Oh wow.
I'll take that.
Holy shit.
Let's see.
Bears, that Bears thing, 6 points against a team they already played, lost 2 by a point. Indoors, rushing attack.
Yeah, I mean it's a good matchup for what we want, right?
Getting 6 too,
Yeah.
Feels like it should just be a competitive football game.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think it should stay within one score, and as long as it's not a full touchdown, and then it's I mean, I do think that the Bears are in a position to win outright. I mean, of course, our big thing with Justin Fields, this could be the thing. We come back next week and we go, well, all we've said all year is that Justin Fields puts up these stats, but he doesn't cover or win.
True. True.
Look, it could be one of those, but I mean, I really love the matchup. And I'm into the spoiler spot this week. Just like what was it, like 8 teams that I read off that were kind of in that position where it's teams out of the playoffs versus teams in the playoffs,
Yeah.
that type
So
of thing.
we'd be picking 2 of those teams.
Yeah.
And then we're taking, Pats on just a home against a backup QB, 49ers, great defense, like world-class defense against a backup QB, and a team that really just feels like they're about to hit the reset button, and the Packers on a rat line.
Yeah.
So I like it. All right.
We're saying the Bears is the 5th one?
Yep.
All right.
Cool.
Sounds good.
All right. I'm gonna go work out and then I'll put those picks in.
All right.
All right. I will talk to you later.
Yep, I'll talk to you.
All right. See ya.